Hello and welcome back to our podcast, Cry, Laugh, Eat, Making Friends with Your Emotions. I am Helen.
And my name is Ruth. A big welcome to you all. And I just want to give a shout out to beautiful Auntie Susan in the States. We love you.
We love you, yes.
Okay, carrying on from the last 2 weeks, if you listen to the last 2 episodes, we've been talking about orange or yellow light that cars have, which they're warning lights. And they let you know that something is up and it needs your attention, and how a red light in your car means do not use it. Just stop and see someone immediately. So we've been drawing parallels with our emotions and how sometimes we have an orange light on, but we don't know, and we keep going and we end up getting a red light emotionally and we crash and burn. And last week we talked about how to identify when your orange light is on. And for those who just joined us today, very briefly, one of the things that we spoke about was changes in you, like changes in your eating habits, sleeping, perhaps you're more emotional, less emotional, but any change and a series of changes can be signs that your orange light is on. Well, Helen and I were talking about it in the week, and the orange light, and we use that expression quite a fair bit now for each other. Like this morning I said to Helen, your orange light's on, Helen.
And then it was great because she let me know the way I'd responded to something wasn't me. That's not how I normally respond to something. And she says, is your orange light on? I'm like, oh.
But then the thing is, when I said to Helen, so what are you going to do about it? It created a big conversation. So today we're going to explore just one very important thing that you can do once you've identified that your orange light is on emotionally, that something needs your attention. It's so simple, but something that I think a lot of us, well, not a lot of us, but some of us, including myself, can feel very uncomfortable about.
And that one thing is talking with someone.
So if the orange light for you is on, we want you to think about talking to someone.
We come to this one from personal experience because, well, most recently that's what we did today, talked through my orange light. Yes. And coming from a counselling perspective, having counselled with people, the talking with someone was very empowering for people to be able to hear their own thoughts and speak them out loud. They often left feeling really like they'd solved the thing that was troubling them.
And in this situation, in this context for this episode, we're not referring to speaking to a professional, although there will be times when definitely we encourage you to do that. We're talking about speaking to someone like perhaps a friend, a trusted family member. It could be someone that you respect and admire and who respects and admires you. It could be someone at work. Yeah, just have to be really careful. I'll let Helen explain that.
Oh, yeah, we were having a discussion about how being vulnerable actually connects you with people and makes you feel closer, because it takes courage to open up and share with someone.
Definitely.
And then we went off thinking about how important it is when you're vulnerable to make sure you feel safe and respected by that person. If you're going to open up your heartfelt things that are really important to you, it's important that you have a trust for that person and feel safe.
That's really important.
By them. Yeah.
We also acknowledge that there are some of us that don't feel comfortable talking to others, that there are things that get in the way. And I was one of those, and I'm learning to talk more about things when I hit an orange light situation. But for me, it was feeling that I didn't want to talk to someone because it felt like I was weak. And so that made me feel ashamed and embarrassed. And some of us have been raised that way. So we just want to acknowledge that there are some of you out there that do feel that way. And also for me, I don't like talking all the time to Helen because I'd rather eat. No, because I don't want to burden her. And some of us feel that way. We don't want to share those burdens with loved ones. But I'm learning too that it's not a burden to Helen.
No.
And it's not a burden to me when she shares things with me. So there are other reasons too. Like maybe you don't know what you're feeling and you don't know how to put it into words. There are lots of reasons that some people just don't feel comfortable talking to someone about things that are personal. And like Helen said, you feel so vulnerable. You feel exposed or naked when you're actually sharing those heartfelt feelings. But I love what you said, Helen, and it's in that vulnerability that we draw closer to each other, that we make deeper connections. I mean, it's like with you. We have such a fabulous friendship, and it's only been through our little pouting sessions with each other and the difficulties and how we've worked through them and been vulnerable because we feel safe with each other and we respect each other, that we've developed this fantastic friendship and we do feel closer.
Yes, and I love what you said. It was through those vulnerable moments where I think when we were first friends, we were resistant to those vulnerable parts. For me, I'm definitely get embarrassed about what I might be thinking, but it's actually when you let yourself share that I realise, I'm just normal. Or sometimes, that's not so healthy. I could change the way I'm thinking about that once I start speaking about it out loud. It was great.
So we're inviting everyone today to first identify and keep an eye out for the orange lights for you emotionally. And secondly, we're strongly encouraging you to talk to someone. And we've just discussed why we don't feel comfortable talking, but now we're going to explore the reasons why it's a wonderful thing to be able to talk about a situation that you're in that's uncomfortable or unpleasant. And we'll just go through a few reasons. The first one I think that's really important is that when you're in an orange light situation, things are building up inside. You might feel a sick feeling in your gut about something, or you don't feel right, or you're just short with everybody. And that's a sign from your emotions in your body that something needs attention. And of course, that's the orange light. And if you don't release that, it continues to build until you get to a red light situation where you crash and burn. So the first thing it does, it provides emotional relief when you talk to someone. It allows you to release all those pent-up feelings
that would stay trapped otherwise. And scientifically, when you speak out your feelings, you stop the process of fight or flight, when our body goes into fight or flight.
And you thaw too, don't you? So you stop the freeze?
Yes, absolutely. You stop the freeze as well. It can bring down the stress hormones.
Yeah, cortisol usually.
Yeah, it will bring down the cortisol and help you feel calmer once you start speaking about how you feel.
Yeah. Isn't that great that once you start talking, you can start to feel a little calmer?
Yeah.
And it's a physiological and psychological process.
Yeah.
Just because you're actually speaking up and voicing that.
And it's okay if that takes a few minutes.
Or a few hours.
Yeah, it actually doesn't matter, but it's the process happening while you do it. And I think too what's wonderful is you hear your own thoughts, because so often we're spinning in our thoughts and thinking, often overthinking, or we've made the story bigger or gone in all sorts of directions with that story. When we start to speak it, we actually hear our own voice, and that's an important part of hearing ourselves.
I love that. Yeah. Everyone needs to have a voice and to be heard. And along with that line, actually being able to speak about it and receiving that emotional relief also comes from feeling understood. Being heard and understood by another person. It can actually validate your feelings. And for me, it sort of reduces the feeling of isolation or feeling like I'm on my own. And I was talking with Helen about that this morning. It's just so reassuring and comforting that when I talk with Helen, I feel totally understood. I think for me, that's the icing on the cake of speaking to someone, is knowing that you're not only heard, but someone actually understands you.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it doesn't even matter if... So you and I sometimes think really differently in different ways, which is wonderful because that makes a beautiful balance. So I will know sometimes that if I share something, you may have already been through it and well past that. And so you can you give me understanding, and then you have this beautiful way of asking me questions that helps me think more clearly at times. And it's wonderful that another human being you love and trust can actually bring you such insight, and sometimes before they've even spoken.
And we're really blessed to have another human being that we can love and trust. But for those of you that perhaps are on your own, we meant to say it earlier, but there are also organisations that have free, confidential 24-hour online or telephone facilities for those who need to speak to someone.
Sometimes that's counselling, sometimes it's just somebody
to
talk to, a listening ear. And they're in many countries. So from whatever country, you can just Google that online and find a place to talk middle of the night if you want to.
I think it's great too, having that option to talk to someone who doesn't know you.
Yeah.
I guess that would ease the discomfort
That's right.
of being vulnerable because they don't know you and you're never going to see them again.
That's right. So you can say whatever you need to say. And you're not going to hurt anybody in that situation. No. You can just share whatever it is, just vent it.
And you had an experience with that, didn't you, Helen?
Actually, yes. When I was counselling with people, they would come to me, and it was a weekend, so I wasn't able to speak to my usual mentor, and I was really concerned about this lady, and so I thought, what can I do? I need a space to talk. So I looked up, I did just what we were talking about. I looked up online and I found a place where you can talk. I spoke with someone and I said, look, I've just talked to someone. I'm really concerned for their welfare. This is what I did. I need to debrief with you and I need to hear what you would do next. I just need reassurance right now. And it was amazing.
Was it?
We just talked. Yep. Wasn't a long conversation. That wasn't what I was needing. But by being able to share what I thought and felt, this person said, yes, that's what I would have done, and you could do this and this to follow up.
I love that, Helen, because what I learned from that is a couple of things, that you were able to gain perspective. Like it was like a reality check talking to that person because you were so concerned. And when our emotions are heightened, it's easy to get caught up in worst case scenarios. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And someone else can just help you assess that situation more realistically, and that just eases the anxiety or the fear that you might be feeling.
That's right. Look, for me, I didn't have to carry that through the weekend. I just had some clear thoughts of how I would follow up. I was just thinking too, if you happened to ring someone and you didn't like them at all, just thank them, hang up and ring someone else. You can do that.
Yes.
Being able to talk to someone that you feel safe with and feel that connects with you is the most important thing. So you have the right to say thanks. We just don't connect. I'm going to try someone else.
That's great. Yeah. I think also along the same line of gaining perspective, I know when I speak to you, Helen, that one of the things I love when that orange light is on and we're having a chat is that you can offer me a different perspective, like new insights that I would never have even considered. You often provide insights or sometimes even solutions, or you trigger those solutions, helping me to see things more clearly.
Yes, and vice versa. You might ask me a simple question, have you noticed or have you felt something? And then I'm like, oh my goodness, yes. And it's such a relief, isn't it, to be able to talk?
It definitely is. And I like the fact you brought in the word relief, because we all want relief from stress. We all want relief from anxiety. And that's also what talking to someone else does. Like Helen said earlier, it lowers those cortisol levels. Research shows that social interaction can reduce stress hormones. And so that's what you're doing by reaching out to someone. It's wonderful. And it prevents whatever you're feeling from escalating when you talk to someone.
And it's that feeling that you're not alone in this is so important. Sometimes there are little community groups that gather too that might appeal to you, that you can sit and talk, that have been through similar experiences, or just a place to connect.
And your mention of similar experiences, that's another good thing. Like as a widow, one of the things I did first when George passed away was I looked up everything to do with widows. I even joined a page for widows because I needed the support and guidance of people who might be able to offer advice based on the same experience. So sometimes just talking to someone can provide that support and guidance that you really need and help you navigate your emotions so that you can find other ways to cope, which is what it did for me. It gave me some ways to cope.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Ruth, because it's one of the things we wanted to bring across to you this episode as our listeners is to know you're not alone. We do know that you can feel very alone. We've both experienced that, and it can feel lonely sometimes, but like Ruth just shared, that it can be something like Facebook where others are going through the same thing as you. Please know that there are people out there. Please know you're not alone.
It's great. And I suppose the other thing, and this is more inner than outer, talking to someone, I guess it helps you to self-reflect and be much more aware of where you're at. And by that I mean at a very practical level, it helps you to clarify your thoughts. Talking things out can help you to do that with your thoughts and feelings. And it's like we said earlier, sometimes actually just hearing yourself speak about a problem or a situation can suddenly make... Have you ever been talking about something and then all of a sudden you go, oh, that's it? Yeah. Well, it's the talking about it that can bring to your mind a solution or help you to realise, oh, that's what's bothering me. The other thing I realised it did is when you're talking to someone, you can start to identify your patterns. And that's what we did this morning, wasn't it, Helen? By discussing how we were feeling and our orange light causes, it helped us to identify patterns in our behaviour or thinking that keeps contributing to our stress and why we're going over the same thing over and over and over again. And that awareness is so important because it's the first step toward making positive changes.
Absolutely. And I don't think you always see those patterns without speaking out loud about them. Because as you share, that's what I find, that as I share, I realise that's when the pattern becomes clearer because your emotions are settling down. You're thinking more like yourself again, and you can see, oh, yeah, I probably need to think about that. That's my orange light there. And I thought as you were speaking too, we're really sharing here to talk to someone. We don't mean that someone's going to have the answers for you because the answers are usually within you. It's the talking with someone that usually clears your mind enough to see them. They may say something that is helpful to your answer or is even the answer, but it really is that talking that lets you free to hear that answer in yourself or from the other person. And so sometimes we have partners that want to help or dear loving people that want to help by giving us the answer. It's okay to say, I'm not needing an answer. I just need to share this with you, or I just need to get this out. I just really need you to hear me.
So in conclusion, we just wanted to quickly share perhaps one thing that Helen and I have, I guess we've gained from talking to someone when that orange light switches on. For me, I think it's built tremendous emotional resilience, which I've never had. I'm still a work in progress, by the way, but there's greater emotional strength for me. And what does that do? Well, it makes it easier for me to handle times when I am stressed, when I am anxious, or when there's any form of heightened emotion that's having a negative impact on me and my body. So now I can think about things and process them in a much healthier way. So I've definitely developed in that sense just from talking to others. It's actually the opposite of feeling weak and vulnerable. You become stronger. Like Helen said, the more you open up in a safe, trusted, respected environment.
I so agree. When you are in that safe, respected environment and you can open up and share, or you allow yourself to open up and share, for me, that has built my confidence in myself, because when I speak, who I am is mirrored back to me. Because usually if I've lost confidence, I'm in that anxious place or overthinking, and I'm not seeing clearly. So speaking out loud and talking with someone that you feel you can trust, for me, it restores confidence, strength, and brings me balance again.
So everyone, we hope that you gained something from today's episode. We encourage and invite you this week to keep an eye out for the orange light in your life. And once you've identified it, then talk to someone.
Well, thank you for being with us today. We love sharing with you, and we really look forward to talking with you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.